the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, Rich Hoffman here. This is an appalling case, one that's really overt, and it's the attack of several factions that just don't like Trump, don't want Trump to be successful. And remember, we elected Trump to represent the people, people's house. He's making a nice, beautiful ballroom, and I'm very excited about it. In fact, so excited that I'm going on my way to go to the White House very soon from this recording. And thanks to people who arranged it, made it happen. I really appreciate it. But I wanted to see the ballroom. I want to see the construction of the ballroom. And I like to see the White House anyway, but I wanted to see the ballroom construction. So I'm very excited about that happening, and I'm glad Trump's doing it. It needs to happen. It has needed to happen for a long time. And there's a lot of people out there that want to poo-hoo the America's presence in the world. And if we wanted that route, we would have voted for somebody like a Bush. We wanted a Trump. Trump builds big things, big grand things. He's very proud of America, and he wants to prop it up in the world. And we need a big, beautiful ballroom to do that. So I love the ballroom. However, the New York Times did a hit piece on Sunday. I think it was the 29th. And on March 31st, U.S. District Judge Richard Leon did a preliminary injunction halting further construction. Now, there's a big problem with that, and I'm surprised there's not more people, lawyer types, talking about it. I kind of find the legal profession boring. I read a lot. I know a lot about legal issues, and I would never dream to waste my life away on legal interpretations, because there's better things to do in life. I tend to look at people who make a living as lawyers as not being very sophisticated, not being very good at many things, and not very valuable in the world. So I look down on the legal profession, but I read voluminous amounts of law. And I will say the problem with this case and this judge, U.S. District Judge, who decided that he was going to insert himself into the situation by stopping the construction of the White House, of the ballroom. The way to win this thing on appeals is prove that that the judge was influenced. That's the surest way to win on appeal. I think, anyway, the argument that the other presidents have made modifications to the White House, and we're not talking about scale, we're talking about modifications. So presidents have traditionally done it, and it's the people's representatives in the White House who make these modifications, and it's part of the storied history of the White House. Is each president adds a little something to it as they go, and it becomes something very historic. But the way America's evolved in the world, you really need a big space, and the way that it's been embarrassing to not have a ballroom, not have a gathering place that people could go. You needed a ballroom this size, and Trump gets it. So he's building one. And he has every right to build one as much as anybody else. And this squabble over congressional approval, and to try and throw it in some endless bureaucracy so it never gets done, to hopefully make it so it doesn't get done during Trump's term, and he won't get to enjoy it, which it'd be borderline for that anyway. That's not why he's building it. But to try and do anything to hurt Trump. They had over the weekend the No Kings protests, and sure, you have all these, even though this judge is supposed to be Republican, and he's supposed to be a conservative, appointed by Bush. What we know is the Bush types, the Rhino Republican types, they aren't all in on what we voted for in Trump being in the White House. So they're activists, and they root for the Democrats more often than not. And if they could stall anything Trump does, they are willing to do it. It massages their ego. But here's the big problem with it. If I did read the New York Times article on Sunday, and there is a very key passage towards the beginning of it, which this is a definite hit piece. The editors at the New York Times were wanting to do something along the lines of all the money. We talked about the 500 different organizations that did the No Kings thing. There's no way to show somebody that there's no kings, but to take away a palace. In the way that the liberals think, especially the New York Times, they've been off the radar for a while. Trump's left them alone, hasn't said much about them, but they're on a push to show they have control and power. They're in a power-hungry push to try and change the midterms and do anything they can to try and deflate Trump. And they want to attack, as part of the No Kings deal, they want to attack the ballroom. Because kings have ballrooms, right? So they're trying to associate the things together. They were definitely motivated to do so. If you go and you track it down, the editors and how they came up with this article at this specific time, you'll see they all are in conjunction together. The No Kings money, the No Kings protests, the No Kings advertisers, the readership, the letters to the editor, all the good stuff were inspired by that $3 billion of money that was funneled into those 500 different organizations. Problem one. This article was set to attack Trump's midterm poise to go out and get some members of Congress and the Senate to make sure they get better majorities in both houses. So at the beginning of the article, they criticize the design. They say all kinds of things that are really crazy and out of their league. Definitely not part of, they have no right to say it to begin with. But again, it's part of the No Kings push. And it's to criticize that there was no administrative oversight. The planners, architects, it was all sped through. Now you got to have some oversight over these kings, right? Trump's not a king. And we need checks on his power. Got to go through Congress because they saw some traction gain with the tariffs, so now they're taking a shot through the judiciary. And this arrogant judge thought he's going to make a hero of the No Kings movement by affiliating himself with them. So how do you get the idea? And I guarantee you, if you go and you bring him into court, I think you need to cross-sue the guy and prove that he was talking to the New York Times editorial staff or people connected to the No Kings movement. And I think you'll find text messages and phone records and affiliations that put it in his mind to come out on the 31st with this stoppage of the building of the ballroom at the White House. Here's what the New York Times said during their article. They have a little caption that was put over top of a picture of this new ballroom extension, and they said here, "These are the kinds of details that are normally scrutinized in the design of any building so significant, and in the review that public projects face in the nation's capital. But barring a judge's intervention, the ballroom is set to move forward this week anyway." That is your smoking gun to activist intentions to go out and get a radical judge who's supportive of the No Kings movement to come out against Trump, which is what happened, and which is why on the 31st of March, this judge cited a preliminary injunction halting further construction. Now, Trump's lawyers will tell you, well, you can't prove it. He didn't come out and say it. You can't prove his phone records. You can't until you get him in court and get him on a deposition. He didn't admit to anything, but he has the legal authority to do so. Look, and I know a lot of judges. And I've known my fair share that have been willing to participate in crooked charades for personal reasons. And these guys are Bush guys. They want things swinging back the old way. They like the McConnell types. They don't like the Trump types. They don't like the direction that things are going. But the people voted for Trump, even with all the chaos and problems that was thrown in his direction. They still put him in the White House, and they want him to build good things for the White House. I'm going to the White House just to see some of the cool stuff that Trump's done. I went out of my way to do it. So the way to beat it, if you can't beat it in court, beat it in public opinion. And the very first attack vector, they have 14 days to allow for the appeals process, the Trump group does. And in that 14 days, expose this judge, Richard Leon, Leon, district court judge, U.S. district court judge, expose him for his connection to that New York Times article. Now, at worst, he's guilty of getting the idea from the New York Times for which they planted the seed, hoping some judge out there that reads their newspaper and doesn't like Trump might get the idea because they put it in their article. They specifically said in the article, but barring a judge's intervention, the ballroom is set to move forward this week. Anyway, and this judge is like, hey, I can stop this. I have the power to stop it. I got this idea from the New York Times. I think it's deeper than that. I think he got text messages, and I think he was talking to them. And I think all these people were coordinating things behind the scenes. And I think you could find some of that money, that $3 billion of money, flowing through the New York Times, flowing through donations, flowing into the hands of people like these judges or people that he might know or support organizations he might like, charities he's trying to brown nose his way to, get a free dinner. I guarantee if you trace the money, you'll find it has an influence over all these characters, the editorial board at the New York Times, this judge, and the whole attack was a No Kings protest to take away Trump's palace that he's building at the White House to show they have power over Trump. And it's the No Kings movement. And it's the funneling of the Soros money and many others, the $3 billion they spent on those 500 organizations, and that's what you see here at the New York Times. And the New York Times put the bat signal out, and this judge, this loser judge, heard it. And that's the way to defeat the thing, defeat the appeal, because once you connect those dots, you win on appeal without all the other judgments, without all the other arguments. You can make all the other arguments too. Talk about all the presidents that had the privilege to add something to the White House over their tenure, and we want that to continue into the future. It's part of the historic footprint that you put into it because they're the people's representatives and they have a right to represent the people's house. Not some judge sticking their nose into it and playing the No Kings game and abusing their authority. And I would say there's conduct here that would balance on criminal. You're not allowed to coordinate with other folks, and that everything connects too easily. 2 days later, New York Times publishes an article on a Sunday, and on a Tuesday, this judge puts out this preliminary injunction, halting construction, to show that he has power over Trump and to throw it into the appeals process and stonewall it, drag it out so that during the year of the midterms, the Democrats and these rhino Republicans can show that Trump doesn't have any power, erode his base so that the Democrats can win majorities. That's the kind of games they're having. I guarantee you this judge is one of those judges. And the way to beat him? Expose him. Because that is as clear as it can be. Collusion between the New York Times, the press, giving the idea to a judge who then thought that he has the power to go do this and cause some trouble to wreck the Trump agenda in ways that made him try to embarrass him publicly. And that's the game. And if you're the Trump people, you're welcome. There's the easy answer. Go on every show and talk about this judge and his collusion with the New York Times and throw him out there and then get some people to dig into how much money of that $3 billion funneled into these people in some direct or indirect way. Judges aren't all holier than thou. The book of Judges in the Bible tells you that judges won't go bad. They have a hard time resisting temptation. And I would say this judge here abuses authority. He's way out over his skis, and this is not a slam dunk case. Especially if you make the connection that he was influenced by the New York Times article. Either that's where he got the idea, passively or actively, a text message, a phone call, or a meeting in the park, where they're like, hey, you know what? We're going to publish this article on Sunday. Wouldn't it be great if you could stop the construction? You'd be a hero. And who doesn't want to be a hero? It's crooked. Expose him, win the appeal, and get construction moving, keep it on time, and bring it in under budget and ahead of schedule, and make it glorious and wonderful and the jealousy of the entire world. That's what we want in the people's house. And these scumbags, like this judge, he needs to be dealt with. He needs to be punished for what he did. And when I say dealt with, tear him to pieces in the court of public opinion. Because he thinks he controls the courts. They all think that they're immune to any kind of rectification on this, and they're going to put Trump on his heels. The way to attack him is attack the connection, because it's clear as day. The judge didn't do this 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago when this construction was going on. He did it 2 days after the New York Times published this article against this project. And the New York Times been pretty quiet about these projects until this week, until they had the No Kings protests, all coordinated events, all happening on the same weekend, and this judge puts this out 2 days after that article comes out. It's collusion. Bust him on it. They deserve it, and he deserves to be disgraced for what he's done. And most lawyers won't go there because they don't want to be disbarred. They don't want to get in trouble by their peers. Well, that's why it's better to be smarter than the lawyers and to criticize them for their silly affiliations and their control over the legal system. And when they violate something, bust them. And that's what they're trying to do with this White House deal. And they need to get on the news and explain this to people in a way that they'll understand and put this guy on the hot seat, because he's got it coming, and I guarantee you he's dirty as dirty gets. And there's definitely a paper trail he's scared of, and everybody needs to start snooping on it and uncover it, because he's guilty as guilty gets. Anyway, you're chopping here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll like it. Not just like it, I think you'll love it. And when it comes to people like this, they got to be punished in ways that send a message to all like him. So, go get him. And have a good day.
Thank you for listening.